What's up, friends? How y'all doing? It's me, Rebecca, only black girl here, checking into your screens. Yes, it's been a minute, but we're not even gonna talk about it. We just gonna get right into the topic. Draco, say hello. Okay, so y'all, as you can see by the title, I'm back and I'm here to shake the motherfucking table, y'all. So this is a very controversial topic within the black community. If you're black, you've probably heard this argument many times. If you're not, it's really not for you, but you can sit on the sidelines and listen to the rest of us talk about it because it really don't involve you. Like the title suggests, I do want to talk about this debate that has been going on forever in the black community about are mixed people considered black. I'm not really going to try to come up with an answer for you because that's not really my place to do that. What I really wanted to do in this video was basically break down the two opposing sides to this argument that I personally have seen come up many times, and just present the information to you. I think that there are points on both sides of the argument, and I honestly think it's a really interesting argument, and I think it's an argument that is more relevant today than it was hundreds of years ago, because that's just where we are as a society. I'm not here to solve this discussion. I'm just here to have the discussion. But before we get too deep into this discussion, if you are new here and haven't subscribed, please do so. It helps out small creators like myself so much. I appreciate it. If you do like this conversation, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It helps a lot. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this discussion, y'all. Okay, so first and foremost, let's just talk about what this discussion has even been about. If you are in the black community, you probably have heard this discussion come up. For those of you who are not, again, this discussion isn't really for you, but I welcome you to sit on the sidelines and just listen, because you probably have something similar with different identities or whatever it is in your own cultures that you guys are probably having the same arguments about. But to give a generalized idea of why this has been a debate, there are people who believe that folks who are mixed with black, as in one of their parents are black and one of the parents is another race, they should not identify as quote unquote black because they are mixed with something other than black. They believe that they should identify as biracial or mixed. On the opposing side, there are mixed folks who say that, you know, regardless of that, I'm still treated as a black person. I'm still viewed as a black person. And so I should be allowed to identify as black. And that's kind of where the basis of this argument lies. If people who are not what we would call monoracially black, as in have two fully black parents, should be able to identify themselves as black. Now, I have some of my own personal thoughts that I will save until the end, because like I said, having seen this conversation come up many times over the years, I honestly do think that both sides have points, but I also don't have an answer. And before I even go any further, I want to absolutely make clear that I am not a mixed person. I am a quote-unquote monoracially black person. I identify as black. I can only speak as somebody who is not a mixed person. This is not a new conversation. This is a conversation that I have been hearing since I was a child. This is a conversation that has been going on and on. And I feel like it comes up every 5 or 6 years where there's like a big blowout discussion in the black community about mixed race people. And I feel like recently, events like blackfishing and Rachel Dolezal has kind of triggered this conversation to come up again, and it feels like it's been much more aggressive this time. And I think it's just because we are so fucking on edge in the black community. There are so many people, and black culture is so accessible now with the internet that everybody everywhere is trying to carry their ass on over here into the black culture. And so we've put up a wall. And I'm not against that. I am 100% for gatekeeping your culture. I think it should be done. I don't believe in this, oh, we should all share our cultures and everybody should just be one big melting pot. No, fuck you. But that's a different topic for a different day. My point is I think that there's a lot of things that have triggered this discussion to come back up recently. So with that, I want to first go over topics that I have seen personally in this discussion coming from folks who don't believe that mixed people should be able to identify as black. So the first point that I see coming up on the no side, I guess you could call it, is that mixed people are mixed and thus should identify as mixed. So there's kind of been this now like protection of blackness, and I think that a lot of people are being very defensive about identifying as black if you are not black by these certain terms that we define, which then leads me to ask that what are those certain terms that we define black as? Because black is a very broad term. So there are people who believe that it's not even necessarily that you don't have a black experience, it's that you are a mixed person and you should be identifying as a mixed person. And I've seen some folks comment that like, well, why are you not acknowledging your non-black side, right? Because whether or not you connect with that side of your family or whatever it is, you still have that as part of your culture, whereas folks who are monoracially black do not have that. And that, I feel like, is a completely different topic that's more based on finding your own identity, that I really don't feel like has anything to do with blackness. That's just a completely different topic that I feel like is being dragged into this conversation that doesn't need to be. Which kind of leads into the second point that I've seen brought up a lot, which is that some people are saying that the mixed experience isn't a quote unquote black experience. It is a mixed experience. I don't know. I kind of understand where folks are coming from when they say that. But your experience as a mixed person, even if you are a mixed black person, is never going to be the same as those of us who are monoracially black, right? So I kind of understand where people are saying that like, you as a mixed person are not experiencing the same things. In some ways you are, but in other ways you still will always have that privilege, whether or not y'all want to admit it. And we have this issue with colorism a lot too, where y'all just refuse to believe that you have privilege because you suffer in other ways, and that has nothing to do with privilege. And the other thing that I see come up a lot, especially with this new resurgence, is people throwing out the one drop rule, and that this idea that by allowing mixed people to identify as black, we're really tiptoeing on this one drop rule. Now, for those of you who do not know what the one drop rule is or was, the one drop rule was something that was used during slavery in America, which was the idea that anybody who has one drop of black ancestry, i.e. if you have so much as one ancestor in your family lineage who is black, you are classified as black, therefore you can be enslaved. And this, to me, I feel like is where I have a little bit of an issue with this conversation. And I feel like this is where I kind of struggle with this conversation. I do not like the leniency that we give some people in calling themselves black. I am sorry, but if the only black ancestry that you have is your great fucking grandmother, baby, you're not black anymore. And that leads to my question is like, at what point do we cut off the line between you are now so mixed? If you're mixed and your parents are mixed and your parents' parents are mixed and your parents' parents' parents are mixed, at what point is the black gone? Because if we're going by genealogy, y'all remember the, what do you call the Punnett squares that we used to do in biology, where you would track out the genes? At some point the black is gone. This is like when white people, or really anybody, is like when I've 164 Cherokee people who are really truly 1/64th black and be out here calling me a nigga, and I got a problem with that. And where do we draw that line in the black community? Because I know for everybody it's going to be different. I know for me, if I have to look up your family tree, you're not allowed to call me nigga. You're just not. It's not going to happen. You're going to get smacked upside the head. And I think if we're going to bring this discussion of the one drop rule into it, then we have to make that distinction. And that's just never going to happen. Now, on the flip side of it, these are things that I've seen coming from mixed people, right? I guess you could call them rebuttals to this argument, is that the biggest thing is like black is like a very broad term. And I personally fully agree with this, which is why I don't really have an answer to this question, because the term black is so fucking broad, which is the problem with classifying race, right? Black has never meant or been used to even refer to quote unquote monoracially black and only that, right? Black is a very broad term. Black can encompass folks who have a black experience via being mixed. It just is. If that is how black has been used to define up until this day. Now, if that needs to change, that's a different question. But you can't come now and decide out of nowhere that all of a sudden black no longer applies to you when we have been using black to encompass all these different black experiences. So for me, the only way it makes sense to say, well, mixed people are no longer black, is to say, well, then the term black has to change, period. The other point that I've seen brought up is like being partially black is still a black experience, right? Because you are still experiencing things being a mixed black person that other black people are going to experience, right? A lot of mixed black people still look black, which is why I don't understand why the fuck y'all think Rachel Dolezal and Sean King are mixed, but y'all be doing dumb shit all the time. But my point is that a lot of mixed people are not really passing as white. Now, there are white passing people, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but a lot of those people are still dealing with being treated as and viewed as black in this society, in American society, right? So they're not exactly getting a free pass of just, I'm walking free through the world and never having to deal with racism that's directed at black people. That's just not the case, right? Yes, it can be a different experience because you are still mixed. I do think that there is a point where they're saying that a mixed biracial, a mixed black experience is still part of a black experience. It's not the black experience because black is not a monolith, but it absolutely can be part of a black experience because they are partially black. Therefore, it is a black experience. And then a lot of point that I've seen mixed folks bring up in rebuttal is that the fact that a lot of y'all equate mixed with light skin. And those are not things to be used interchangeably. And I absolutely agree with this. Way too many of y'all, when you say mixed, what you are referring to, what you are thinking in your head when you say mixed, is you are thinking a white person and a black person, and you're thinking light skinned. I can guarantee at least 90% of you just pictured that in your head when I said the word mixed. But that is not a monolithic description or experience of mixed people. First of all, you guys need to remember that mixed does not mean mixed with white. There are people who are black and mixed with other races besides white that are still considered mixed. They're still biracial. Biracial just means two different races. You can be mixed with things other than white, right? There are people who are simply mixed with everything but white. That's still a mixed experience. So I think we need to be colonizing our own minds and stop leaping to that conclusion when we say the word mixed. And then following that, the idea that every mixed person is light-skinned. That is not true at all. There are many, many, many mixed people who are dark as fuck, that are dark like me, that aren't passing a brown paper bag test. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of y'all are light-skinned, and a lot of y'all walk around here on your high horses with your colorism ass, with your head held high, thinking that you are better than everybody else because you mix and you closer to whiteness than the rest of us. And I think that those people, which I do think are the minority of mixed people, I think that those people are the ones that have triggered conversations like this, because we are so fucking tired of y'all walking around here on your high horse thinking that you better than everybody else just because you a little closer to whiteness than the rest of us, baby. We don't all want to strive to be white. But I think in order to have a productive, cohesive conversation on this topic, we have to get that stereotypical image out of our minds if we're going to be talking about what it means to be mixed and what it means to be black. Because we have to remember, just as being black monoracially is not one experience, being mixed is not one experience either. Everybody is not the same. Everybody doesn't have the same experience just because they're black or just because they're mixed. It's not the same thing. And so we have to start breaking down these biases that we already have if we're going to have a discussion about this. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going in circles like we have been. We've been having the same discussion for decades, and it hasn't gone anywhere because I feel like we keep getting stuck in these cycles. So let me get my own personal thoughts. Like I've said, I'm really on the fence about this, and I think the biggest reason why I'm not really able to choose one side or the other is, one, what I talked about with the term black. To me, words mean things, right? And if we have been using the term black to encompass all black experiences, to me, it is not fair to now say that your mixed black experience no longer is valid under the black umbrella. That doesn't make sense to me. We have been yelling and screaming and begging for black individuality, that we have been yelling about black is not a monolith. You can be black and fucking like classical music and be the black emo kid or whatever it is, right? But then as soon as there's a mixed person who has a slightly different black experience, all of a sudden is, oh, that's not a black experience. Well, why not? Why can we not also include those mixed black experiences under the black umbrella while also acknowledging that it's a different type of experience that you and I might experience, but it is still part of a black experience? And then on the flip side, I also understand, for me, the biggest issue on the, I guess, no side of it is that one drop rule. That to me is a big issue, and I have a lot of issues with this because I just feel like we're being very lenient on who is allowed to come over here, because a lot of y'all be trying it. And I know, I understand a lot of that is probably my own bias, and I get that. And I'm okay with that. I am not going to stand for allowing people who are black by technicality alone to be over in black culture rejoicing and celebrating like this is actually your lived experience. The one drop rule thing, I get. I feel like that to me is the strongest argument on that side, because I get it, right? And I really do get it. And we have been way too fucking lenient on just letting people claim blackness who ain't really black. Because I'm sorry, if you got 2 white parents, girl, I'm not letting you claim blackness. I'm just not. Sean King, you got 2 white parents, baby. You're not allowed to claim blackness, and you're not allowed to call me nigga. But with that said, that's all I wanted to talk about. I'm just here to give y'all the information, give y'all the thoughts that I personally have seen going around with this debate. I'm gonna give it to y'all, and this is something for you to think about personally. I'm not here to convince you one way or the other. Personally, I feel like there are much bigger things happening right now than to be arguing about this. I feel like if we really want to discuss something in the black community, we should be addressing colorism. But here we are. So that's it, y'all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around while I've been on hiatus trying to survive out here with monkeypox and COVID and fucking lockdowns and earthquakes and fires and all this shit. The world is falling apart. I'm just waiting for that alien from Nope to come and snatch me up, baby. I'm ready to go. Okay? But thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button. Continue the conversation down in the comments. I encourage you to do so, but keep it cute. But alright, it's been good. Love you guys. Mwah.